Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
This week on the SRC podcast, we see two massive blowouts, the Shield changing hands, and tales of two halves. Tune in to find out more. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the SRC podcast. Joining me, Big M, as always, the one and only Double R, Mr. Rob Rees. Good evening, my friend. How are we?
A bit better if the fucking Shield didn't change hands.
Oh, that's a sore subject, and we will come on to that. But I'm not going to be cruel. I'm going to get it out of the way pretty quick. So we'll do it. So we'll do it last. Yeah, that sounds all right.
You can do it last, but we'll zip through that game. Don't you worry.
Okay. Well, as we've had TV games, finally, we'll start at Carmarthen Park, where obviously Carmarthen Quins faced the current new plate winners, Swansea. And this definitely was a tale of two halves. Honestly, it broke me. Like this game has literally put me into such a downward spiral. I have done absolutely nothing rugby-wise other than watch the Scarlets on the Friday. I've done nothing. Normally I'll watch all the highlights. I'll watch as many games as I can. I have done absolutely nothing. So on to the actual game, and the first half was all Quins. Their set piece absolutely dominated that game. The scrum was such a weapon, and Swansea's lineup couldn't get going. There was a few steals here and there, and I'll be honest, we brought in Steph Jack Jones from Llandudno for this game because obviously we do have a massive issue at 10. And for that first 40, he looked amazing. I mean, what was it? The chip and chase for the second try? I believe it was just outstanding.
That was the one Elan Phillips, whenever then was that the one? And then
no, I think that was the sec. Elan Phillips was the first one where he cuts back inside and he beats a few defenders. And I think this is when Hemmings eventually goes over. Obviously, Aaron Hemmings returning. No idea where he's. I know he was with Swansea last season. Was he still on their roster this year? I'm really not sure. That tells you all you need to know. Probably. But yeah, so going in at halftime, what was it, 15-7 to Quins? You know, thinking how the game had gone, obviously you probably deserved at least another try on that for the dominance that they had. But, you know, you're thinking, even if Swansea start fighting back, we're in a good position. Our set piece is on top massively. And we'll just keep going. We keep plowing on. But that second half, oh my God. I really don't know what happened. Do you want to take this off? Because I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, like as you said, it was a massive switch. I think we talked about the back row battle, and I think that's probably where it started to change. Swansea's back row started to really disrupt that that breakdown. They picked up the speed of ball. The ruck speed starts dipping below that 3-second barrier that people want. And all of a sudden, it was quick ball, spreading it wide, really trying to start to move it about a bit. And like I said, it's disappointing that Quinn just couldn't wrestle anything back with it. It was like once that momentum completely swung, the discipline was far better from Swansea all around the park. They weren't the enforced errors. Couple of decisions that probably didn't go Quinn's way in terms of a couple of the tries, but look, there's no TMO in these games, and there hasn't been all season. And they said they've turned it round, and Swansea actually put themselves into the top 4, with that win at the time.
Yeah, that was quite incredible. So let's have a quick look at Swansea. So Brandon Wood got himself a brace, and again, and big credit to Swansea here because they have recognised that big fullback, Lewis Edwards. So someone down there is listening, and thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. And even though I've got my rose tinted glasses when it comes to Quins on, Lewis Edwards, such a talent. I mean,
deserving man of the match.
100%.
It's good to see him back. He was so good before he got injured. I think it was up at the Wern playing for Wales against Scotland, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally a couple of minutes in.
And it's so good to see him back. And this is why, was it his first game back? For Swansea?
No, he played for Wales under 20s. He came on in the second half, actually scored a try off the bench. And so this is his return.
Swansea.
I think I will double check.
It sums it up because it was Ewan Glynn, wasn't it? Started at full back the game before, moved to the wing for this game, was it?
Let's have a look. Yeah, Ewan Glynn was full back, and they had Prothero doing his thing for the semis and finals of the plate. So yeah, Lewis Edwards' first game for Swansea.
Yeah, invaluable. We're going to have someone who can just drop back in like that, and put in the performance like he did. That is invaluable. That is the sort of player that can change momentum, change the game. And he sort of leads that momentum swing because when he's playing at his best, he's such a powerful runner. He's an elusive runner. He takes it from deep, but he's also comfortable. He's got a good boot to him, good cannon. So he relieves that bit of a pressure, gets the exits going, which settles the set piece. And all of a sudden you can just see if everyone else just comes up that half a level around him, how one player can elevate. And that's exactly what they've done. And, credit to Swansea here. They are, it's probably fair to say, coattailing that top 4 now.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, they did break into that top 4 very briefly. And now they are 5th, but they do have a better record than Newport in 4th. It's just those bonus points that have creeped in, which is it's been massive this year, these bonus points.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. I don't think Swansea's squad is in that position that Newport's is. Newport's squad is at the peak of where they're going to be. They're putting people away. Swansea aren't pulling people away when they are winning. But, like as you say, they've got 9 wins each, and Swansea have actually lost one fewer game. Is that one draw, and that's what makes a difference now. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm just having a quick look by here, and it's quite funny. So obviously with these bonus points, Newport have lost 6 games this season. As we know, there was a horrid 5 losses in a row at the start of the season, and they picked up 5 losing bonus points from that. That's invaluable. But the one game they didn't was actually against Swansea.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Swansea did the double over them, wasn't it? I'm sure they did the double right at the start of the season. That was game week 3 and 4, wasn't it?
24-14 and 40-42. That's amazing. Fair play. They managed to pick them at the right time. So finish off Swansea 24, Carmarthen Quins 18, with Aled Thomas coming on late and securing 3 points.
I called it.
You did call it. No, I can't say anything against that because you were right.
Yay, again.
Okay. Let's travel downwards to Saturday, and we will hit the Brewery Field where Bridgend welcomed Llandovery. And not so much a tale of two halves, but another traditional Bridgend performance. They didn't come out at all in that first half. Llandovery, okay, they definitely weren't at their best, but they got a couple of tries in. So Adam Warren and Jamie Hughes cross for a 14-3 halftime lead. Second half, they stretched that a bit more. I think Kian Abraham and Harry Dole go over, and then Bridgend actually start playing. It's between, I think it was between try 3 and 4 that they realised, we actually have to play a bit of rugby here, and they got themselves 3 nice tries. It's a shame that none of them were converted, because that would have taken them to 24 points. It would have made that final few minutes very, very tasty. But is there anything we can really read into this for both teams?
Probably a little bit of something. I think Llandovery are shaking a little bit every now and then. They're not convincing in the way that they have been this past few years, and maybe that's the sort of an end of an era sign. But Bridgend, they've done this for a few seasons now. They lift their game for the big teams.
Yeah.
But very often it's either a 20-minute spell or that late when it doesn't matter. When the game's gone, you rescuing either 1 point or nothing from it. Obviously, you can't take anything from this game now. Obviously, they stopped Llandovery taking a 6-pointer, so it affects Llandovery. But you can't be going out and having these slow first halves, or even a slow first hour, because this is where we said Swansea were last season and the season before around, look, it's all right saying, we put in a solid performance for 50, 60, 70 minutes, but if you're losing with nothing out of the game, this is a disappointment. You lose to Llandovery at home. It's not a hammering. You've let them get away, and you finished on that awkward spot. You haven't got enough points or enough tries for the bonus point, and you haven't got close enough to get the other bonus point. So it's after the result against Pontypool and that comeback, you'd have thought that has spurred them on a little bit. Yeah. So they're off the bottom, but now all of a sudden that gap between them and everybody else has opened right up, and I just don't see that closing.
No, it is hard to see where Bridgend go from here, and it doesn't help. When they've got Newport, away next, so it's a really tough run in. I mean, you're struggling to see a win anyway. You really are now. I mean, they've only picked up, what is it, 3 wins in the league. Oh yeah, the Pontypool game makes it a 3. And you're looking. They go Newport away, Swansea at home. 2 teams that are, well, Newport are flying at the minute. Swansea, you could probably say Swansea are flying as well. To be fair, they've how many? Just have a look. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, 6 game wins on the bounce now for Swansea, including a 2 knockout games. So
I think Bridgend's problem is that they haven't been picking up the big points often enough. Like, you look at those around them in the table, it's not too bad. Like, they've got let's look at those 10 losses, right? They picked up 5 games where of results. But in the losses, they've taken nothing from this Llandovery game. All right, they beat Pontypool. If you go all the way back, they got tanked by Cardiff and then tanked by Cardiff again in a double. Hammered by Ebervale. Nothing out of that. Obviously the draw with Swansea there. Hammered at home to RGC, 26-54. So what's that? Did they take the one out of that? 40-29 against Newport. Looks like they took the one out. There's too much of a pattern of they're hammered and they're not taking those bonus points, and that's what does shunt you up the table. And unfortunately, that's Bridgend haven't been clinical enough this year or disciplined enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, we are seeing that with a few teams. Like, if we go to this bottom 4, you got RGC and Bridgend. They've both lost 10 games, taken 4 and 2 losing bonus points between that, each respectively. Aberafan 11 losses, 1 losing. Pontypool 12
Well,
losses, 2. When
let's look at
you,
the
you you need to pick up these bonus, but like I said, like RGC saving grace is the fact that they score tries for fun. They've scored
prime
a try bonus
example.
point more than anyone.
Well, you can look at this by ear, right? I know there's 2 draws for Bridgend, but ultimately, RGC have got 5 wins and 10 losses. Bridgend have got 3 wins, 2 draws, and 10 losses. But there is 14 points between them.
Yeah.
They've got the same amount of losses. There's 14 points between them, and they played the same amount of games. Like that's, I know RGC are the other end of the scale where they score tries for fun, but then concede them for fun. But this just goes to show where Bridgend aren't picking up enough of those bonus points, and it's the same for Aberafan, who were sat below them, who got 2 less points and 1 more win, exactly the same.
Yeah, it is. It is a struggle for them, but there we are. It is what it is. There's not really much, we can do about it, or even they can do about it right now. So I've lost where I am now. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Clicking on the wrong things again and again. Over to my lovely plan. So next game up, we've got Pontypool against Cardiff. Now, I was expecting, a bit of a backlash for Pontypool following, what what really was, a not nice hammering,
One that got away.
and then obviously hammering away to Bridgend, and then just a sneaky loss away to Swansea. And you're like, oh, they need to do something here. They've got to do something, and it's just not clicking. It's not happening, and I really don't know what's wrong here. So first half, the game's done in the first half. Cardiff have run away 33-8, and there's really nothing they can do with it. The
Nah.
second half comes out, and Cardiff, they've got some of their under-20s boys back. They're starting to fire. Harry Wild is back with them. That's absolutely massive. I know he's played a few games this season, but Lloyd Lucas has been their number one, for the start of the season for quite a lot of games till the 20s break. But having him back is absolutely huge. And they've destroyed Pontypool. This is the second time in 3 games they've conceded over. Is it over 50 points? I mean, it's 50 points. Need to say, it's ridiculous for the Pontypool side to be conceding that much.
Yeah.
And okay, they put up a little bit of a fight in the second half and scored 2 tries. So Harry Ford crossed in the first half, Reece Cole and Carrick McDonough in the second. But Cardiff scored 2, 4, 6, 8 tries in that game. 5 in the first, 3 in the second. It's hard, and I can imagine it being quite debilitating. Just being in that environment right now.
Yeah, I think we've gone past the stage of allowing Chief his sort of tactics. I'd be honest, this is probably showing up now where are his tactics and game plan outdated? And I probably think the answer is starting to get towards yes, unfortunately, at this level. I'm not saying it wouldn't work at another level. Cardiff were first class in every department. They took apart the set piece, the scrum and the lineup, which has been a good strong base the past few games, at least for Pontypool, was completely outclassed, and in defence even more so. They stretched the pool of backs to no extent, and unfortunately, when you're doing that to a team that's not having any luck up front, there was no way back into it, and that's why they sort of picked off a few consolation scores here or there, but ultimately got nothing out of it anyway, only scoring a 3. But I would say I think Cardiff at the moment they're probably the second best team in the league after Newport anyway. That they are on some brilliant form. They're not just hammering teams; they're playing really well to do that.
Yeah, like they sort of they had that game back against Aberafan to kickstart this little this final block, and it's worked out perfectly for them because they've just destroyed a team in this game, and it absolutely perfect, warm up. And I don't mean that as disrespectful, but to Pontypool, but it's perfect for when they're traveling to Llandudno next week, and that's going to be amazing watch. So that game finished 20-52 in Cardiff's favour. And we now travel up north to Rugby Gogledd, Cymru, where they entertained the Aberafan Wizards. And to be fair, another game that's a tale of two halves. First half, really dogged, both sides really scrapping, to be fair, and Aberafan showing up really well. Fair play to them. RGC just sneaky, 13-12 going in at half time. But then that second half, I don't know what happens to Aberafan, but RGC kick into gear and they just slam a load of tries in them. Couple penalties in there for Billy McBride. He picked up 14 points. So, that's, he picked up more points than the entire Aberafan side. Obviously, I know that's not, he wouldn't have beat him on his own sort of thing. But, 39-12 it finishes. So, 26 unanswered points in that second half. It's, it keeps going back and forth with Aberafan. They keep having a decent performance. They look okay. And then there's another blowout. Because their last game, 24-28 at home to Cardiff, that was really, really respectable. And
especially when you see the Pontypool Cardiff score.
Yeah. And then they go up north, and obviously I know RGC are on, they're on a bit of a good form. Obviously, the bit of a blip in that final against Swansea in the plate. But other than that, they are running a lot of teams down. It's the reason why they picked up so many bonus points for, 4 tries. It's just huge.
Yeah, I think this sort of shows how you beat RGC and how you lose against them. Is that first half is tight, is dogged, playing on set piece, playing on very slow ball, and just trying to, dictate the sort of the state of play. And yeah, you're right. RGC went in leading, but that's anybody's game. And considering it's on the fast track up at RGC, that's a very good halftime result for Aberafan. You come out the second half and lose 26-0. That's exactly where RGC start pulling away. They start playing a bit more ragged, loose, open rugby, where you're beating defenders, breaking tackles, making your clean breaks, counter-attacking rugby, a lot of kick chase with the pace they've got in that back line. And ultimately, I think they've just got on top in that sort of department. I think they're starting to look a bit better up front now, and I think having George Roberts back from the Dragons certainly helps in that department up front. I think it's one of those positions it's just nice to solidify. But yeah, I think Aberafan just need to get the end of the season. I think with all the coaching changes and the position that their squad is in, they're not going to do anything now this season for me. They were resting on claiming a home tie in the wild cards, and obviously that's still on. They're only 2 points behind Bridgend. Obviously 16 points behind RGC for those home tie spots. Yeah. But at the moment, it would be travelling to Bridgend, and that's not an unwinnable game. That's the only good thing for them at the moment. Yeah. They just got to be careful, I think, that they don't slip down the table. And I don't think they will, given Pontypool's fixtures. But I just can't see them going past that wild card the way they're playing.
No, it's 100% just, you can't see it. So 39-12 to RGC, that game finishes. Now, for the big one of the week, the SRC Challenger Shield on the line as Ebbw Vale at home take on Newport. This was always going to be a tasty game. So tasty, in fact, that Mr. Rob Rees refused to go because he was so scared. And to be fair, he made the right decision because, wow, what a performance. And I don't want to say this lightly, but that was an unreal performance by Newport at Eugene Cross. This literally does not happen. After over the last 2 seasons, what is it, 1 loss at Eugene Cross. Obviously, that was to Newport. That's almost 2 years of, and obviously the season before, of not losing at home. And to basically, obviously, the game wasn't over at halftime, but for the way Newport managed it, and literally they killed off any chances you had to really get into this game. They disrupted your ball, and they were just ultra clinical when they had a chance. So 24-10 up at half time. Obviously, Eberville get a penalty try then in the second half, and you're thinking, okay, the game's coming back on by here, and then Newport just click again, a couple 22 entries, a couple more tries, and the game's absolutely dead. So you're the Eberville man. It's hard. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to even talk about it. It's hard to talk about Quins for me. So try your best.
No, this game swung extremely early. Eberville go 10-0 up, and they're absolutely dominant. The pack is all over Newport. Tom Price is leading the game well, and Joe Franchi goes down for a period of about 10 or 12 minutes and has to be stretchered off. And unfortunately, that sort of length of delay just absolutely killed the momentum off, and it was a bit like restarting. But with obviously you bring it on Yaya Morris. And from there, the momentum just swings. John Evans goes off with a nasty looking hand injury. And you do, a couple of yellow cards down to 13. And yes, all of a sudden Newport start to sort of look more and more into this game. A lot of poor kicking then across the halfbacks allowed Newport right in. A red card for Eberville in that second half then basically slammed the door off the hinges and allowed everybody from Newport to come into the building and storm the place effectively. That was the story of the game. I do feel that 12 minute break or so at the start where Joe goes off, and thankfully Joe's recovering safely back at home and didn't require a hospital visit. But the red card in the second half was silly, and whether there's rumour mill that's the season done for him now as well. Ryan Jenkins then goes off in that second half with a knee injury, and that doesn't look too good. And the wheels just fall off. It is one of those. I think back, this game reminded me of that game against Llandovery in the cup final last year. Dom Franchi goes off very early with a nasty looking injury. You got a few cards, and then they run away with it. And that was exactly the same year. Newport far better on the day, far more clinical, and will ultimately be extremely difficult to remove that shield from. And I got to be honest, it'll probably stay there now until Llandovery or Cardiff pay him a visit, I fancy.
Yeah, so obviously the shield doesn't get defended during the playoffs.
No.
And Newport have got Bridgend and Pontypool at home in their last 3 games. I mean, I wouldn't count out Pontypool because they do manage to get up for some of these derbies, but yeah, it's finishing with them this season as far as I can see it.
Yeah.
So that is this game obviously finished 17-44 to Newport, and it leaves the table looking quite nice and quite tasty. Obviously, Ebu got a good bit of an advantage. 71 points in first. 62 Cardiff in second, and then here when it gets better. So Llandovery in third, 56, Newport fourth, 54, Swansea fifth, 49, Quins sixth, 43, RGC 7, 39, and then the bottom 3 go 25, 23, 19. So there's a big battle between third and fifth now. Obviously, you can't count Quins out just yet, but that loss against Swansea seems to have done a lot of damage. They're now in a battle with RGC for the 6th spot. Is so many battles, and we didn't have this last season, and it's so intense, it's so entertaining. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, as you say, I think if you work from the bottom up and look at the battles, I think you've got the bottom 3 are all still fighting for that second home spot in the wildcards. RGC and Quins are firmly locked in to get that top 6 and a bye through to that quarter-final. Obviously, that will be away anyway. I think realistically then you've got Swansea, Newport, maybe the Drovers as well. And possibly Cardiff, depending on how this week goes. But I think they're a bit far ahead, looking at that top four. So basically a home tie if you win through to the semi-finals. But at the moment, I'll be honest, that top spot is back open. With the volume of injuries that Ebervale currently have, and suspensions and players who are no longer at the club, you only have to look at this with, if Cardiff all of a sudden, or even Llandovery close that gap this week, that's 9 points currently. There's a few tough fixtures left in there. That top spot's not a gimme all of a sudden. And that could be crucial because, again, we're talking about it. Yes, the Shield's gone, but there's only 2 losses, across those home games in 2 seasons. So if you're looking at that, you're going for Ebervale, sorry. So you're looking, well, if they can go through top spot, if they won, the final will be at Eugene Cross again. Yeah. So everyone wants that little bit of an advantage, and that's why it's so close. Even with the additional 6 points of the bonus points, I think it's still a fantastic league. There's no absolute hammerings like there are in the Premiership and places like that, where the disparity between the top of the table and bottom of the table is vast, and due to clubs paying absolutely ridiculous wages like Pontypridd and Merthyr at the top of the Premiership, they're always going to be paying more than teams like Treorchy and Llangennech and people like that, and Tartar maybe not, but so the disparity's not in this league, and that's the good thing. Yes, there's big hammerings. We've seen it this week, but one, they're not the norm, but also they're not absolute blowouts. They're not like your 60 points to 8, 71-3. You don't see these results. And that's only good for the league. And like you said, these televised games, I know obviously it was not a good watch for yourself, but as a neutral, it was a solid game for TV. It wasn't one of the best ones this season, but it was a solid game. And I foresee that continuing through the run.
Yeah, this like the only thing I can say about the Premiership is the way it's going, Bather could be finishing above Pontypridd, and that is wow.
I hope so.
Look, I grew up in the valleys. I done some age grade with Ponty, so I do have a little bit of a connection to them. But honestly, for Bather, knowing the vicinity in the area, for them to get over Ponty would be absolutely massive, and I'd love to see it, even if it's just for the one season. Okay, that is all of last week's action covered. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, any sort of interaction. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, whatever, 5-star review. If you're nice, give us a 5-star review and just call us shit. I'm happy with that. Obviously, I think there's the shop underneath if you're on YouTube. I don't know if hype is still a thing. I've never seen it myself, but apparently I've been told it is. So let's get on to this Saturday. All games on the Saturday, but we do still have a televised game. So that will be at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So we will finish on that game as it's the last one of the week. So if we start, let's start at the basement. Aberavon at home to Pontypool. Oof. Neither are in a particularly good place, but I'm feeling that Aberavon are slightly better off at the minute. I'm still thinking back to that Cardiff game at home, and I'm giving some caveats to them travelling up north to RGC here. So I'm thinking Aberavon in this game. Pontypool are just not clicking, and I just think the Wizards will be able to give that scoreboard a bit of a nudge, and just, I can see it being a single score game, but I think I'm backing the Wizards by you.
Yeah, I'm the similar sort of boat. I think it's going to be a close 1-score game, and I'll be honest, this is a sort of a game where I feel the loser of this game certainly doesn't get a home tie in the playoffs. I don't think the winner gets a home tie in the wild card. I think that's still open for debate. Yeah, but I think the loser, you can forget it. So you lose this, your season is done effectively. You were traveling away in the wild cards, and that's a game that's competitive still, but you're done until that point. For me though, I feel that Cardiff are a very good side, and Pontypool's loss down there is probably a bigger indicament of where they are.
Yeah.
And I just feel that set piece is going to be an interesting one around the Aberavon. Is as strong as it has been. I think Pontypool set piece is pretty strong. So I'm leaning the other way actually. I've just tied it up because John's gone for another draw in this. He's not certain about Aberavon at this stage. But yeah, I'm going for Pontypool.
Oh, so we got Aberavon, Draw, and Pontypool. That's nice. That's really nice. Okay, so let's head to Newport, where they face Bridgend. And I'm sorry to say this, but I don't really think this is worth discussing. This
is going to be Newport hammering Bridgend, and even John fucking agrees.
I know. It's simple as that. And I'm sorry, Bridgend, but it's just the state of where you are and where Newport are. You are occupying, that 8th spot. It is a coveted spot, but quite honestly, unless Pontypool pull it off, you're dropping down into 9th this weekend. And
that's the other big thing. I think this game is bigger for Aberavon than Pontypool. They need a Newport win because, like I said, if either Aberavon or Pontypool win and Bridgend loses, all of a sudden it's like whoop. Especially if it's Aberavon win. If Aberavon win, Jesus Christ, what an end to the season we got, because you could have Bridgend 25, Aberavon 24 if they get a bonus point, and let's say Pontypool take 4 points, they'll be on 23. So you have 23, 24, and 25 for the bottom three. And that's exactly what you want. But yeah, this is going to be a blowout, and I think the Shield's staying firmly at that shithole called Spitty.
100% agree on that one. And let's head back west, and we see Swansea entertain Ebbw Vale. This is very, very interesting. Now, like I said, Swansea are on a 6-game winning run. They've put in, really, really good performances, but they have shown some frailty in the set piece. Like we saw against Carmarthen in that first half, you can attack this scrum, you can attack their line out, and just on that basis and knowing how strong Ebbw Vale's pack is, even with the odd injury, I think I have to stick with Ebbw by here. I think the pack is what swings there.
Yeah, there's a few injuries I'm not going to mention that I know of that are going to be, I think, be hit or miss. I think that is what is going to be crucial for Ebbw Vale going into this game. As you say, the pack, I think, is where Quins lost this game a bit. They went away from Swansea. I don't think Ebbw Vale let it go as much, but I think this is a very close game, and I think it could very, very much get interesting depending on who's fit and available for Ebbw Vale. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see a couple of young dragons in this squad this week filling in a few gaps.
Ooh,
but I do think, you cheeky cunt. I do think though that it might be Ebbw Vale that do squeeze this one out. But again, I see Swansea getting something out of this game.
Yeah, 100%. And did John mention what he was going for this one?
Oh, John was comfortable. He was Ebbw Vale all day long.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. He's gone for a draw, Martin. Of course he's gone for a draw.
A draw. I mean, actually thinking about it, that is really not out of the realms of possibility.
Do you know what? If I was going to pick one tie this week to be a draw, it would be this tie. I think it's got all the elements. Shit weather. It's raining all week. I think the sun comes out a little bit towards Thursday, Friday, and it's sort of a sun and showers on Saturday itself. But it's not going to be a glory game, this one, I don't think.
No. And our last regular kickoff on Saturday, we see Carmarthen Quins travel up north to RGC. Now, I'm going to back Quins regardless, because they are more than capable of winning up there. We've seen that in the past. They can do it. They seem to have a very, very good knack of controlling and limiting what RGC can do in attack. Obviously, it doesn't work every single time, but they have done it quite a few times over the past 2 seasons. So realistically, they're going to be hurting from that Swansea result. They need a bounce back. This is all or nothing, really, for that sixth spot. Because honestly, if RGC win this, I think that's going to be enough. Because the RGC finish with Bridgend at home, and Quins do get Aberystwyth at home in the following week. But Quins have had such a struggle this season scoring bonus points. Only scored 5 in the 15 games. Only Pontypool have scored less 4-point tries. And I'm looking at by year, we've scored the least amount of tries overall with 43. Compare that with Swansea, who are one above us, 54. And then you're talking 60s and 70s then for the top four. Even RGC is 61. That's been a massive problem for Quins all season. But I am keeping the faith and I'm sticking with Quins.
Do you know what? I think this could be the fixture where Quins lose out on top 6. And I say that because, what we've just mentioned on bonus points. So I'm backing RGC for the win, but I got a feeling that Quins don't take anything out of this game and RGC open up a little bit and take that full 6 points, which give them a 2-point cushion over Quins and then takes them forward. It's just Quins not in a bad position, but yeah, for me, this is RGC. And like I said, I think they switch in the table.
Yeah, I do think that's the most likely outcome, but I'm praying and I'm going to believe for better. So
Blind faith.
Blind faith. And John, obviously, he loves Carmarthen, so he's backing Carmarthen as well, just for shits and giggles.
Do you know what? Fair play to the man. He was unsure, but he's back. He wants an underdog story for this one, doesn't he?
Yeah, he saw there was 4 away wins last week, and he's like, "Well, there's got to be a few more this week, so I'm going to go for an away team as well." Okay,
the away team. That sounds like a fucking shit action movie.
It does a bit. Well, now we're off topic. So we now come on to our televised fixture. And I am very, very, very happy of the fixtures they've chosen for these last 3 rounds because they are tasty as ever. We have got Cardiff travelling to Churchbank to take on the Drovers. Oof.
I was at this game last year. Oh, what a game.
Oh, take it away, my friend. What
What
are we not going to see in this game? Because we are going to see everything.
We are going to see pretty much. We're going to see tries at the length of the field. We're going to see set piece tries. We're going to see a high scoring affair. It wouldn't surprise me if this game is 60 points plus in terms of total points scored. In all honesty, I would be more surprised if it is not than if it is. And this game doesn't get niggly either. There's not a lot between them. There's not in terms of history or sort of a derby-ness to it. It's a modern rivalry based off Llandovery's fairly recent success in terms of how many decades they've been at the top.
Yeah.
I find it difficult, but I just feel that Llandovery have not settled. As I said, they're a bit up and down. They're not settled with the 23. And I feel Cardiff are. And I feel Cardiff only get stronger when the Six Nations and the under-20s all disappear and go back to clubs. Because everything filters down. All the Cardiff internationals go back with the seniors. The fringe players who've been playing, like your Stefan Manuels, your Tom Bowens, etc., they filter back into the rags and make them a very difficult squad. Now, I'm not saying that you are going to see the likes of those because they've been absolutely outstanding for Cardiff pros, but you're going to see a few people drop down for this one, and Cardiff will want to retain that second place. They will also see this as an opportunity to close that gap again on Ebbw Vale. Obviously, they've closed it now 2 weeks running. If they can gain any points on Ebbw Vale, it's an absolute bonus and just closes us in. Although I do think from a neutral perspective, everyone wants Llandovery to win because that will make the top 3 run in, probably the top 4, a bit more unknown. Whereas I think if If Cardiff win, I think this settles the top two, because you're going to have Llandovery 56, 57 points. Newport will probably be on 60. Cardiff then will be on 66, 67. So you start to see Llandovery drop away. So again, this is probably crucial for Llandovery in terms of any hope of that top two, because if they don't, they're going to drop below Newport as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going with a Cardiff win.
Oof, that's a big one. So I mean,
just like last season.
Like you said, these games are high scoring. Last season, at Rovers, Cardiff 52-19 win. Llandovery picking up 48-43 win at the Arms Park. And then the one game they've played this season was 37-28 to Cardiff. They're all 60-plus games, like you said. And it's going to be entertaining. Like my caveat is, Lee Reese will be coming back and starting in this game instead of being on the bench. There's no Harry Thomas because, Scarlets have got a few hooker injuries. So he definitely won't be there. And I'm just thinking the Drovers need this. The Drovers need him more than Cardiff. And given all the talent they got, look at their squad from last week. Their backs outside of, Lee Reese not being there, 10 through 50, and that was awesome. The partnership of Rodri Jones and Adam Warren is absolutely brilliant, and we haven't seen enough of it. I don't think this season. We have had a lot during patterns, but Corey Baldwin has been in there for a fair chunk. We had Max Page pick up a game there, and Griff Watkins has had a couple as well. So, it's good to have that combination back in and working together. And Aaron Warren, who I'm trying to see when the last time he actually played, because he started this game on the left wing, and his last game was in December. So his last start, at least. I'm not checking the benches. It's too bloody much work. So it's brilliant to have him back. Switch Lee Reese into that 9 spot, get that extra control. And I think it's a much, much better, much more organised Llandovery who will exploit gaps. Now in the forwards, my main concern is, in the second row, like obviously Joe Powell is awesome. He does captain the side fairly regularly, so he can be captain fantastic. But Chris Long hasn't played in a very, very long time, and it seems as though they're just trying to find the right partner for Joe in there. Harry Holden, Griff Evans, Kai Jones.
Dan Jermaine has been in there as well this season, is it?
Yeah, Dan Gemin has been playing. I don't know if he's played a lock this year. Will Evans has featured. Obviously, he's been injured. But, Chris Long's last start was the 21st of November. So it's been a lot of mix and match, but Powell has been the one consistent. And I do feel that second row is a bit of an issue. And obviously Corey Lewis has done an amazing job at Quins this year. At Drovers. Coming in as hooker when he wasn't a starter, and he's become a starter. Finn Thomas has been that, replacement, the bench player. When Harry Thomas comes in, obviously that changes a little bit. But they've worked absolutely awesomely. It's just that second row, I think, that's gonna cause issues, and not just be as strong as normal, but regardless, I'm gonna go for a home win because I want Llandovery to win more than I want Cardiff to win. Simple as that. And to finish off,
that is a fair reason to want someone to win.
And to finish off, how has Sicky/Bookie gone for this one?
He's not gone for a draw, Martin.
Ooh, he's not gone for a draw.
Nah, of course he's fucking gone for a draw, Martin. Yes. Why did he? There's going to be a draw this round. He said we've had 2 draws this season, 4 teams involved. That's only in the league. Never mind all the 0-0 draws he fucking predicted correctly, the fucker.
Oh yeah, that's not good. But thankfully they don't count.
Yeah,
You
you
don't like
can't.
0-0s.
Yes. Mind you, I've seen it. Pontypridd, Aberavon. A few years ago, finished 0-0.
Ooh.
Think
Bet
that was
it was an awesome game as well.
Apparently it was, yeah.
Yeah. Like I can remember clearly a game from many, many years ago. It was Newport Gwent Dragons against London Wasps. So that those names will tell you how long ago it was. And the game finished 3-3. I think it must have been an Anglo-Welsh fixture. And it was an absolutely brilliant game. But there we are. We have finished for the week. And
Hey.
nothing else to do but say thank you to my co-host, Mr. Robert Rees, the one and only Double R. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to this week. And yeah, give us a like, give us a share. You know, if you're involved pretty close with your club, maybe a bit of reciprocation on socials would be absolutely lovely. Please, pretty please. Thank you all, guys. We will do this all again next week, and we'll dive into that huge Llandudno Cardiff clash from TV and all the rest of it. Until then, bye, guys. Super.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Find the biggest voices in sport on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like the Managers with me, Mick McCarthy.
And me, Tony Pulis.
Join us on our podcast, which is all about football managers, talking to football managers about what it's like to be a football manager. Search the Managers and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sports Social Podcast Network.